What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is Eazy Studio. Today we're in Photoshop and we're going to be doing some image retouching or image retouching. Alright, so quite a couple of things we're going to be doing: frequency separation, color correction, exposure setting, white balance settings, and color grading, and maybe also add some skin texture. Alright, so let's get started. Before that, if you're new to the channel, kindly subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel grow. Okay, thank you for doing that. Now let's get started. Okay, now the image right from the start, you can see that it's actually not exposed, and we can do that exposure settings by increasing the exposure or trying to bring up the highlight or the dark. But before that, let's try something like white balance. All right, so instead of going to the camera raw filter, we can quickly do that with a solid color. So create a solid color, click on OK, turn it off, and zoom in. Now I want to pick somewhere that is actually supposed to be white, so I'm going to double click on the solid color layer and I'm going to sample anywhere from here, and I'm going to click OK. Now turn it back on. Don't worry, it's going to come back. Change it to divide, and you can see the before and then the after. It's actually brought out the image. So if you want to adjust more and you want to get more light, you can actually still bring it down a little, not too much, till you don't lose the highlight. So I'm going to leave it somewhere there and I'm going to click OK, so we can zoom back in and see how it affects the image before and then after. Alright, so that's not all. Let's zoom in and let's see what's actually going on. You can see this part of our mouth is actually yellowish and this part is reddish, so we want to create some uniformity. I'm going to create that with the hue and saturation layer. Pick on this hand tool and I'm going to select this Eazy part, or you can select somewhere here, and then you see that the red is selected. Increase this one and then you can slide to get that part only selected. So like this, I'm still going to take it up, so somewhere like this, and I'm going to leave it. And you see some of our parts being selected, and we can turn it back off and on. But this I'm going to turn it on, and then I'm going to reset this one back to 0, and I'm going to increase or decrease. Let's zoom in and see what's going on. We can increase or decrease. Now I think this best fits the color, makes it uniform compared to before and after. Okay, so let's zoom in and see the before and then after. Just create a very warm uniform red, or you can also go back to the red, which is the yellow that was selected, and you can bring it down a little, and I think that looks awesome to me. We all know it's actually red, but don't worry, it's to make the idea is to get everything look uniform. Okay, so this one, the end right there, I'm just going to select that as well. So click here and saturation, click on the hand tool and then select the hand. That place is actually selected. Increase, and then we find a sweet spot for that. And if we can't find a sweet spot, we use the max tool for that. Okay, so I think that's actually okay. And let's use the max tool. Click on the brush and then make the brush bigger, in fact the mask, and we're going to select just the hand, just like so. I think just a little is actually okay, and I can click to select where it's selected. Now let's go back and then go to the reds and make this 0. Okay, so now we're gonna actually increase the saturation, and you can see the difference. Increase the saturation. Okay, so now that we get everything looking good, you can see the before and then the after. There's no need to decrease the lightness. We can create a stem visible layer, and after creating the stem visible layer, we can now do some frequency separation. So I'm going to brush through what frequency separation is. It's actually separating the color and the highlight, so you can work on them independently. So I'm going to do that. There are so many videos online that you can actually watch to understand what frequency separation is, but I'm going to pause the video, do the frequency separation, and come back. Alright, so I'm done with the frequency separation, and you can see I named it for the color and texture separated, and you can see the before and then the after, before and then the after. Alright, so now I'm going to create a stem visible layer, and then we can continue working. You can take time and do your frequency separation. So I'm going to go to filter, camera raw, filter, camera raw, filter, and here we are in camera raw filter. Alright, so you can also try out the white balance again, but I feel, let's see, use the eyes, and you can see the real color of the white balance. But I just want, if you get it on auto, it's even more brighter. But I think I like the short, which is the custom, just because I want to keep the color grade, and the white balance we actually used the other time actually solved the problem. Alright, so if you want to do another white balance, you can. Okay, so open up the mixer and let's work on the highlights and the shadows. So I'm going to work on the highlights and the shadows by bringing up the contrast, first of all, a little, so as to get the highlight and the shadows intact, and then I can increase the highlight just like so. Now we can take it up, just remember to avoid clipping, and we can bring up the white. Let's zoom in a little, bring up the white. We need the image to pop out the more. Okay, so we can also bring up the blacks, and to make the background a little bit defined, we can bring up our shadows. I don't think there's much shadows, and just a little bit of the shadows is also brighten up our face. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can see turn it off and then bring it on before. And if you feel like you want to increase the white, I think you can, but I'm just gonna bring it around 20, and I think we're good. And also the highlight, I'm gonna take it as 20. Okay, so now the textures, let's bring up the texture a little bit, 7, and I'm gonna close the basic tab, go to the curve, and let's create some contrast. The more, let's just take this up and bring this down a little bit, down as well, down, and then we can see before and after, just little definition. Okay, I'm gonna take it not all the way up, just a little bit, and this one to increase it just a little bit, and okay for the curve, and you can see, and then you see. All right, so that's that. Now more time we're going to spend on the color mixer. Let's zoom in the color mixer, and we can see that this part of the color, which is on the color mixer, is kind of, orangey, and we can make that uniform. Saturation, let's start with saturation. So let's see how we can make it more uniform. It will be more easier in capture one. I'm going to bring that up, and let's see about the red. Let's increase the saturation of the red. I'm going to get our lips to stay where I want it to, so bringing it up a little makes it define. Okay, so that's for the yellow. We can also increase the saturation of the yellows, and we can actually take our time and do all this, but for now let's just stick with what we have. I'm going to brighten up the lips and the red, and the yellows, I'm going to brighten it all the way up like 12. There is no other color present in the photo. I'm going to close the color mixer tab right now. Okay, let's do one more of the hue. Let's go to the hue, and the yellows, I'm going to take it backwards to get it towards the orange. And if you want to make your orange look yellowish, you can take it forward and take it backwards, but this one I'm going to take it a little bit forward and leave it like that, so as to get it looking like this one, because if we take it back, it's actually going to look more redder, and I don't want that. So I want it looking like the yellows, just like that. Okay, so we can check out our before and then our after, just a little bit enhancement. We can even increase the red, saturation of the red the more, just because of the lips. and I'm going to close that, and I'm going to go to the last part, which is the calibration panel. I'm going to increase the primary, which is actually fair, 20. I'm going to take this one back also to when I find the photo I'm using, 20. Okay, let's leave it at 19, and we can adjust the green to paste, bring it back. Let's see. So we need to take it forward. So normally I do take it forward till I get the best out of it. I think that looks okay for me. Let's see before and then after. Let's zoom in and see what we have. It just has a nice color grading to it. So I'm going to leave it like 41. And I'm going to bring this back a little bit like 19, and also bring back this a little bit. And increase the saturation of the greens to have it look like this. Alright, so let's see before and then after. Okay, so I'm going to click on OK this time around, and you can see that we actually went a long way to create an awesome video. Don't worry about the saturation, it's actually too saturated at some point. So I'm going to take this and create the hue and saturation adjustment layer. Hue and saturation adjustment layer, and this time we can actually see that it's orangey, but I'm just gonna tick with the color and it picks the red, so we can actually decrease the saturation of those places, and you can see that it's actually not too saturated unlike before. Okay, so last is the color grading, which is we're going to use the color balance. Now I'll advise you to look at the photo and not anything else. Let's start with the highlight, and let's bring up the magenta. That's where I like going first of all, and we can increase the yellows and also the cyan. For that, I don't want more red. I can go to the mid-tones, and you can actually bring up the blues in the mid-tones, just +9, and we can increase the magenta as well and go back with the cyan, and we can go to the shadows and bring up the blues. Actually make things beautiful, and taking it, I just want something a little bit different, so I'm going to take it +3 and then take this one backwards. Let's see how the green looks like. Okay, let's leave it in the greenish kind of hue and get it with the magic cyan. Okay, so I think the red actually makes sense. I'm gonna leave it like this. Okay, so I'm gonna close it, and then I'm gonna see before and then after. So just a little dimension it has. Now let's create one more adjustment layer, and this is going to be the exposure. I'm going to bring up the gamma correction somewhere above like this, and I know the background is not too smooth right now, and we can mask it out, but let's do that. Mask it out. I'm going to click on the brush tool and then make it bigger and exchange it for black, and I'm going to paint over just like, see if we have a vignette, so something like that. Okay, so I'm not trying to change the photo, I'm trying to make the photo look awesome. Now this small thing is actually causing a distraction. Let's create a stem visible layer, and let's quickly fix that. With the spot healing tool brush. I'm going to make it bigger, and I'm going to click on it, and it's going to remove it for us just like that. And we can also do this place as well, drag it down, and let's see what it got. Okay, so we'll do this as well. and then it's all going to disappear just like that. Okay, so next thing I want to do, I want to brighten up the eyes. So let's try and make the eyes white. So I'm going to go to the filter and then select the cool filter 80, and I'm going to close that, and I'm going to select the adjustment layer, black and white adjustment layer, and we have it like this. I'm going to join the two together and group them. Let's group them, and after we group them, we're going to create a mask for it, and I'm going to invert the mask, and let's take our brush tool with the flow around 1 to 2%. I'm going to paint over our teeth, so let's zoom in, and we can paint over our teeth with white as our foreground color. And let's see, I'm going to increase it, the flow, to like 10, and then I'm going to paint over the lips to have it white, just like that. You can take your time and do that. And also the eyes, I'm just gonna do that as well, make it smaller and fix this place too, so something like that. I'm gonna take this place and then I'm gonna fix it as well, something like that. Alright, so now we fix the eyes, but it's actually looking too bright compared to before. I think I like it the way it is. I'm just going to reduce it just a little bit till I feel it's natural. So 76. And after that, let's work on the lips, create hue and saturation, and this time I'm going to select the red, and I'm going to increase the saturation of the red to somewhere like this, and I'm going to close it and invert it. Same thing with the brush tool. Let's zoom in, and I'm going to paint the lips red, increase the size of the brush. I'm just going to paint it red like this, and I think we're actually good. Let's zoom out and see what we have. Okay, so mouth attracted. Okay, now I think we're done with the photo. Let's create a stem visible layer. Ctrl Shift Alternate E to create a stem visible layer. So now that we have a stem visible layer, I can select everything and group them together, or turn everything off. Alright, like this, and turn this one off too, take this one off, and then we are left with the last layer. So we can see the before and then the after, before and then the after. What a tremendous change, right? Yes, tremendous change. So one more tip for you, last tip. If you want to make the hair black, you can select the hue and saturation, and this is what you're going to do. Select the range you want and increase. Now that you have the range you want, you can also take the slider and increase it like this. Alright, so cancel, hold down your brush tool, make it bigger, and this time around remove it from where you don't want. So like this. I'm just going to increase the flow to make it quicker, and then I'm going to remove just like this. But it's very hard for you to select it from the place you don't need it, so I'm just going to remove like this. That's if you want to make the hair black, you can actually do this. Alright, so back to the hue and saturation, and I think we selected the yellows. Let's make this one 0, and then to make the air blacker is just to desaturate the colors, and then you can actually decrease the opacity of the lightness a little bit. Don't take it all the way down, just take it just somewhere, but take the saturation down. And after that you can zoom in and then make adjustment by selecting the mask and then using white as your foreground color. But it's very hard for you to select the air without selecting the skin, and I'm sure there are a couple of videos you can watch. I'm just going to show you how to do that. Okay, so if you find this video helpful, kindly hit the like button and kindly subscribe to the video. If you find the channel helpful, kindly subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, like the video and turn on the notification button to get notified whenever I post other videos. So thank you for watching, guys. See you in the next video. Once again, this is our before and then this is our after.